away we go. It is the Nightcap right here on BearcatJournal.com. Brought to you as always by our good friends at Galactic Fried Chicken. Visit www.galacticfriedchicken.com to download the app for Android, iPhone, everything Galactic. Aaron.
Chad, please tell me this one's going to be shorter than last night's.
We are not going to go 3.5 hours on the Nightcap tonight.
Good.
Maybe two, maybe 2.5. We're not live. This is recorded.
I thought you were by yourself last night. You'd be by yourself tonight.
So today, every time I do radio, I text Taryn and I say lunch, and he tells me what he wants for lunch, and I pick up lunch on my way in to do the show. So I texted Taryn today and I said, "What do you want for lunch?" And he said, "Chicken."
Was it his
and
first?
I was like, no, he's had it one other time.
Okay.
So I said, in my brain, I'm like, that's vague. And then I was like, oh, I know what he means. He doesn't want to say it, right? But I know what he means. So I hit up Shane and I said, Shane, I'll be down at 1:15. Throw me a couple boxes together. He's like, what do you want? I'm like, surprise me. So I showed up. I got a box of tendies. I got a box of chicken legs. I got a white meat combo. I got some fried pickles and took those up to the radio station. And Taryn and I had ourselves a fried chicken feast and shared. I don't do the fried pickles. It's not. I'm not a pickle guy.
Me either.
But everybody else, Audie Elmore, James Rapine, Rocky Boyman, the sheriff, everybody was popping in, crushing this big box of fried pickles and dipping it in Galactic sauce. You went, what's that sauce? What's that seasoning? Is that seasoning on the chicken? So they were blown away by Galactic Fried Chicken. And every one of them said the same thing. Where is it? Oh, that's not far away.
Nope.
And I'll be at Galactic Fried Chicken very soon. So that was today in radio world, as I once again, for the second time, took Galactic Fried Chicken in and blew the doors off of everybody that works at iHeart that had a chance to taste. So get there.
Come shop.
Save 15% and enjoy what everybody else that ever tries it says is some of the best fried chicken they've ever had. Austin Elmore said it was the best fried chicken he's ever had twice now. And Taryn even said the last one was great and this batch was even better.
Lepore ever make it down?
I don't know. I gotta pressure him on that.
All right.
Sometimes those guys get caught up in their own little world and they don't think about the things that are important. Like
recruiting for basketball.
All right, let's so we've spent 3 days talking about the 8 recruits.
The biggest recruiting weekend in Bearcats history.
And we're not done. There's still
Some
residual
aftermath.
effects. There's some aftermath that's coming. Tomorrow, Wednesday, Friday.
What do they call that when an earthquake has the after tremors or whatever?
Yeah, it's aftershock or whatever it is. I think aftershock is the word. There are other things coming. But one of the things, and we touched on this a little bit over the 3.5 hour nightcap last night. I joked with Shane. I was like, you got your money's worth last night, bro. He's like, yeah, I saw. I just started watching it this morning. I was unaware last night you guys were going to do a live 3.5 hour nightcap.
Chad says, so was I.
Well, I knew when all of a sudden I went live and that thing jumped over 100. I was like, oh, we're going to rock it out tonight. We're going to be rolling. But
Strap in.
The one thing that every kid has mentioned, and the one thing that you keep hearing, is brotherhood and culture. And I wanted to touch on that a little bit tonight because, Aaron, I typically loathe that word.
Okay.
Because I don't believe it is used
It's overused.
with sincerity when people say it.
Like the word elite. How often how do you have 10 elite quarterbacks in the NFL? The
Right.
NFL is elite. Like we already
There's
know. Like
32 teams, 10 of them don't get to be elite. That's not how elite works.
Like
33% is not an elite number.
I knew the word elite had jumped the shark when we're talking about Joe Flacco being elite, right?
Well, that was sarcasm. That was troll.
I don't think it was when it was being ballyhooed. I don't know.
It was
man.
absolutely trolling. It started with the pardon my take guys saying, "Is Joe Flacco elite because he won a Super Bowl?" And does that make you elite? Like, if you win a Super Bowl, are you automatically elite because your team won a Super Bowl when you were the quarterback? That was
Trent Dilfer, Brad Johnson.
Right.
Like, come on now.
That was the running joke. And then some people took it too far because people don't know how to have fun on the internet. They take things very seriously. But every coach press conference you ever hear, culture. We're gonna build a culture. We're gonna do that. But the reality is, all of them say it. Very few of them live it, right? And what we're seeing in Cincinnati is Luke Fickell and Brady Collins, ultimately, because they're the two that set the tone,
right.
And then it trickles down to Gino Guidugli and Mike Tressel and Mike Cummings and Mike Brown and Darren Page and Colin Hitchler and now Kerry Combs, like top to bottom. Culture is a word that isn't said around Cincinnati football like lightly. It is very much lived. And I think that's a big reason why you see so many of these kids talk about it, is because they get around the team, they get around the coaching staff, they get around the environment, and they're like, man, this is different. These people aren't bullshitting me. They're not trying to be my new old man best friend.
What a line.
I'm going to use that line forever. Especially as I get older.
I'm still super surprised that Mick got it somehow before I did.
Mick just threw a softball and allowed me to hit it out of the park. Like, that's on him. That's on him.
He did.
He tried to come at me when I told him I had a joke ready. And it got delivered. But I'm interested in your take because like I said, I'm annoyed by like the use of that word while also watching a team and covering a team that actually lives it, so that there is some reality to it. It puts that reality into my brain that it's real. It's just that very few are actually willing to go to the depths that it takes to make it matter, right?
Well, so you brought up some points tonight in the show, and you were talking about how Cam Calhoun and Jermaine Matthews were not just there to camp, they were also there basically kind of help coaching up other kids, which that speaks volumes to the character of the guys of those two gentlemen.
Well, and who were they coaching up? They were coaching up the young kids from Cincinnati,
right,
that were at the camp, class of 24, 25, whatever. Like, they were taking it upon themselves when the rep was over, or before the rep began. Like, if a kid didn't have his positioning right, or he didn't have his leverage right, like, so it
just speaks volumes on their character. You see guys like Sauce coming back, right? Again, just speaks to a little bit different than his character, but it speaks to just how much this program and what was built here means to him. That he could be, the words that you used tonight, he could be literally anywhere in the world. He could be vacationing on an island, like doing
he's got a check for like $25 million.
Dumb money. He could be doing anything.
Somebody was like, well, they took half of that in taxes. I'm like, well, okay, then he got a check for $12.5 million. And that's a nice fucking check.
Yeah. And he's still going to get some of that back when he has to go file taxes anyway. So
right.
Come on now.
You know what I mean? But like,
it's on loan to Uncle Sam. He's in a whole different tax bracket. We don't even know how those taxes work. Come on now. 10-figure tax bracket. Get out of here. So I don't know. I mean, they've taken the guys that they try to bring in. They're bringing in leaders. They're bringing in captains. They're bringing in, guys on the team that mean something.
Kids that play on winning teams, state championship teams too.
You know who else in the city has started to do that and completely changed the culture? I know you don't like that word, but it did completely change the culture. The Cincinnati Bengals.
I don't like it when it's used fake. I don't like it when it's just a buzzword. I appreciate it when it's real. That's what I'm saying.
But the Bengals And Zach Taylor took that same philosophy, and they
Right.
started drafting captains. They started drafting captains from winning teams. And they have done kind of the same thing and are starting to put that same model together that Coach Luke Fickell has already established here. And they're kind of trending the same way, oddly enough.
Right.
When you bring in, I mean, you said it earlier tonight, you bring in good people and they get along with good people. Like, there's a word for that.
We're like the opposite of that. You bring in guys that are rough around the edges, they're going to get along.
Yeah, I mean, Bearcat Journal's built different. The culture here is a little different.
The culture here is it's a similar philosophy. We just did it a little bit.
We went the other way.
They zig, we zag.
That's fine. That's why we get along.
Or whatever.
But you know what I mean? Like, I think that both the Bengals and after a Super Bowl run, you saw it. You saw when you bring in guys that are leaders, that are captains, that are built, cut from the same cloth of character guys, and you don't have the off the field trouble. You don't have the schisms going on in the locker room when you get rid of, you know, the guys who caused those rifts. And all of a sudden you have this young team. They got to a Super Bowl. No one saw that coming. Luke Fickell got to the college football playoff. No one thought that it was going to happen.
Well, everybody said
a lot of pieces had to fall in place.
To happen.
Right.
They could get there, but they're never going to get there. And we saw that through week 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of the regular season. Oh, that's cute, but these guys don't belong. They're not talented.
They're not winning by enough.
Yeah, they're not.
They're
good
winning,
enough.
but it's not by enough.
They're not meeting our standards.
Just
fuck yourself.
Everything had to fall into place just the right way for it to happen.
Right.
But again, I think it's just I say all this just to bring up the point of they're bringing in character guys, both teams, and that's kind of a parallel that you're seeing between the success of both of these teams at the same time.
So here's what's interesting to me is we are entering the second phase of culture in Luke Fickell's program.
We've talked about this being the second chapter. Yeah.
Right. And what I mean in adding to that is when it comes to culture, this thing meant something different to Derek Forrest, Kobe Bryant, Desmond Ritter, Mike Warren, James Wiggins, who even though he came in for Tuberville, became a culture guy for Luke Fickell.
Right.
And what is left now, those guys accomplished. Outside of winning a national championship, they accomplished everything there was to accomplish. Thorpe Award, Heisman votes.
Highest drafted player
in the history of the program. Like, so now the goal becomes different, and it's going to be interesting to see the culture embrace the next step, maintaining that standard, right? Because that's now what the culture has to maintain. And I told you I was going to give you a little comparison when it comes to UC basketball. So when Mick got here, obviously things were very rough and they missed the tournament for 4 years. Mm-hmm. And they made the tournament in year 5. And then they made the tournament every other year in Mick's tenure, 9 straight years. And I would talk to guys and they would be like, you know, you go back to like the Larry Davis year where Mick was out with the brain aneurysm and that team was struggling to find its way and trying to do everything possible. And those guys would tell me, we're not going to be the one that snaps this streak of tournaments. Man, mm-hmm. We're not going to let that happen. We can't let the vets that we came in, like the guys that were the leaders when we got here, we are not going to let them have that on our heads that we broke the streak that they built. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's when you know the culture has solidified, has mm-hmm. taken. Because now these guys know they set the standard and we have to be about it.
You have to uphold
because
right.
If we're not, right, if not, we're going to live the rest of our lives with Dez and Sauce and Kobe and all those guys every time we see them they're going to tell it you fucked it up. You broke the chain.
Yeah, I mean it's super cool though to see that like even the guys who have been around since forever.
Yeah.
Marcus Brown and Sauce and Dez and
Sauce
Malik. Sauce is 3 years.
Sauce is
Correct.
20 years old, Aaron. He's 20
I know.
years old.
But he still takes pride in this in the sense that he helped build this, right?
Sure.
So I don't know. I mean, I think that there's just definitely a sense of pride, and we helped build this thing. And when you see JQ, like I was out and about, and now I'm, they called me up, and I'm like, oh hell yeah, I'm coming. He's got his golds in still because he was like, I was out and I had to be here. Like, get me here.
Iced out, blinged out with the girl.
But he didn't have to be there. Is my point.
Right.
Like he wasn't getting paid to be there.
No,
like,
he just stopped by. He wasn't working the camp. He was just
correct.
like, everybody's down at the camp. I'm coming to the camp.
Exactly. And it's crazy that they all want to be around each other. I mean, for Ben Bryant to come back a year after he left and know that this isn't my job.
And to say I never wanted to leave, but I knew I needed to go play because Dez was the quarterback. Like, Dez was the star. And to get better, I had to go somewhere and play. And then as soon as I had the opportunity to come back and become a guy that has a chance to shepherd this program into the next step, he jumped at it. There was no question.
But he also knew that he had to win the job, and him and Evan just continue to speak so highly of one another. And the whole iron sharpens iron thing, it's not just the motto, they're living it. They're literally building each other up. And a lesser quarterback wouldn't do that, right? I mean,
a lesser culture wouldn't allow it.
We've seen plenty of quarterbacks across the country just transfer out when the job wasn't just bestowed to them,
right?
So I don't know. I think there's something to be said for that, and much like football had to kind of go through that same process with the basketball side of things, you're seeing this restart and this shift into that same culture. So they're at the new infancy of the culture stuff in the basketball program, but you're certainly seeing a shift in. I mean, we talked about it the other day where you had JD who's like, this is what I'm talking about. This is what we needed, as he's literally still talking shit to the guy.
Right. The guy just hit a shot in his face or made a sick pass for a basket, and they're talking trash to each other. But JD's looking at us going, yeah, exactly. That's what we were missing. That's why we didn't win last year, is because we didn't have enough of that.
So it's funny to see baskesketball for
the early stages. Yeah, it's the early stages for sure.
But we're not accustomed to that with basketball. So there's a difference in patience almost, right?
The basketball program is in the beginning of the first chapter.
Right.
And the football program wrote a whole goddamn book. And now they're starting book 2. And we'll see how it goes. But as the recruiting weekend shows, the culture and the brotherhood around the program is at level 10. It's as elite as it can possibly get. And now we see what the next wave of leaders is ready to do with this program. Like, I saw Jaheim Thomas the other day. 245-pound Jaheim Thomas.
I told you
already like 8 to 10 pounds bigger than he was in the spring. And I was like, bro. And he's like, look, man, like, I've been here a minute. Like, and I haven't really had a chance because of the stewards of the program that were ahead of me.
DeBlanco and Beavers.
Right. I haven't really had a chance to show who Jaheim Thomas is and what Jaheim Thomas is about. And I'm taking this shit serious. And I'm ready to be one of those guys that takes us to the next step. And that's exciting as hell. That's exciting.
Well, I think it's become less about words even at this point, the culture, and it's a feel. Like you literally, as people who cover the program, I know I've felt it being around the spring game and all of that, like being on the sidelines, like it's almost intangible. You can't necessarily even put the right words on it, but you can certainly feel it.
you don't know how to win at the level that they've won unless you've been there, unless you were part of the climb. These guys have been part of the climb. They just didn't have their chance to be the main actors yet, right? Like they've been like
they're making their
role
mark on it.
players, right? And now they're moving into the starring roles, and that's gonna be fun as hell to watch. That's our 20-minute conversation on culture. We'll see you tomorrow night. It's the Nightcap, brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken, right here on BearcatJournal.com.
Sit.